Hello, and welcome to another episode of Zen and the City. I'm Evie, and today we're going to talk about the cost of living in London in 2023. This is one of the most requested topics I think I have on my channel and on Instagram. People are always curious to know how much it is to live in London, as I am also curious about other cities, especially now that we have this crazy inflation going on since last year. I think it is high time we had an update on the cost of living. We will be discussing the various expenses associated with living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. I think up until recently, London was the fourth most expensive city on the planet, and now it might have become the third one. Oh, yes. London has always been the center of Europe and a hub for culture, fashion, finance. But these things come with a high price tag. London has a population of 9 million. So you can imagine that everything is in demand here, from jobs to houses. Yeah, sure, there's plenty of them, both apartments and jobs. But at the same time, the competition is super high. And I'm not sure what happened, but you know how during 2020 and 2021, many people moved out of London because of the high cost of living. And since we were all staying at home or we could work from home, many people moved out of London to reduce their expenses, of course. And I totally understand that. But as soon as everything opened up, in the mid of 2021, people started coming back. And since then, not only the population went back to what it was before 2020, but it has also increased. So the demand for housing is crazy. It was the first time I had housing agents telling me that they don't have enough flats and houses for people to rent. People come and ask them, or they have so many applicants, people who want a house or to rent a flat, and they have to go through like actual applications, which was not the case before in London. It was first come, first served, and now because of the demand, the prices are going up because there are so many applicants. So you have to compete with other people, which I find crazy. So as you can imagine, as you saw, I dived straight into accommodation, which is one of the hottest topics. It's, I think, the first and most significant expense when it comes to living in London. This is housing, accommodation. Just to let you know, the average rent currently for a one-bedroom apartment, let's say maybe zone 2 or zone 2 to 1, is around £2,000 per month. And that's not even a new one-bedroom flat in the city center, right? That can be in zone 2 or at the end of zone 2 even, because I've seen it all so far. And if you are thinking of renting a 2-bedroom apartment, the price can go up to 3,000 depending on the area you are looking at. The thing with London is that prices vary a lot according to the zones, so how far or close to the city center you are and which area you live in. Of course, in every city there are areas that are considered more high-end or luxurious, and there are cheaper areas, there are more trendy areas, and etc., 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 or even up-and-coming areas. So even if you are in zone 2, it depends a lot in which area you're looking at. But still, that doesn't say that renting in London is super expensive. However, if you are willing to live a bit further out of the city, let's say if you go to zone 3 or 4, things can get cheaper. Still, it's London. You have to consider that, but it's gonna be much cheaper than renting in zone 2 or 1. You might find more affordable options in zones maybe 3 or 4. I'm not sure how much, but it might be like 200 or 300 pounds less per month than living in zone 2, for example. If anyone is living in zone 3 or 4, please let me know in the comments. And if you live in London, I would love to know how you're finding the cost of living right now and how you're coping. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more about life abroad in London, and hit the thumbs up if you are enjoying the podcast so far. Let's dive into transportation. The next expense is transportation, and because London is a huge city, right? You cannot escape getting public transport. The good thing is that the public transport system is great. It's superb here. Nobody complains about that. Owning a car, don't even think about it. Nobody owns a car in London because it is crazy expensive. You don't have a parking spot, and also the transportation is so good that you don't even need it. But having said that, London has one of the most extensive public transport systems in the world. Extensive, yeah. Including buses, trains, and the famous London Underground, which people here call the Tube. But also there are trams, boats in the river. There's also like a teleferic, as we call it. Yeah, it's crazy. But it is extensive, but it is also one of the most expensive in the world. Yay! A single journey ticket on the Tube can cost around £280 or £290 right now. So a return ticket on the Tube, it will cost you around a bit less maybe than £6. But the most cost-effective way to travel is by purchasing a travel card if you are traveling very often. A monthly pass for zones 1 and 2 is currently at £157 a month, which is mental. Like literally mental. Do you realize how much money that is? So if you have to commute to work every day and you also go out on weekends, yes, it's worth it buying the monthly travel card, but at the same time it's a lot of money for, like it's a very chunky monthly expense. And thinking about that, the monthly pass was like around 135 couple of years ago. Then it went to 147. Now it's 157 almost. It's crazy. Don't even get me started on that. Yeah, I love the Tube. Everything works fine. Everything is on time. When it's rush hour, there are Tube trains every like minute, literally. But still, it's a lot of money. Sorry. Let's go now and see what are the food expenses in London in 2023. The cost of food in London can vary greatly, depending on where you shop and where you eat. Still, I find that supermarkets in the UK in general, and even in London, are much cheaper than many other European countries. For example, in my case, because I come from Greece, I know that the supermarkets here, like getting groceries for the month, costs like maybe 2/3 or half the price from what I would pay in Greece. Let's not exaggerate it. Let's not say half, but 2/3 of the price, which is a big difference. But here, since last year, we saw a massive increase in the shopping supermarket prices as well, right? And groceries can be expensive. Right now, the average cost of a pint of milk is around like 80 pence to a pound, and a loaf of bread might cost anything from 120 to £3, depending what kind of loaf it is, what it's made with, how artisan it is, etc., etc. Eating out can also be expensive, but again, I think London is quite affordable in the going out sense. Comparing to the cost in Greece and other European countries, maybe Germany, France, Scandinavia, etc., it's not that bad. And it's one of the good things in London because you're like giving so much money for transportation, rent already, and maybe groceries that, oh come on, let us have at least like the going out. Eating out can also be expensive, but it depends where you go, what you eat. Is it takeaway? Is it to eat in? But I don't know, like a burger, to give you an idea, a burger might cost anything from around £10 to 16 or £17, depending where you have one. Let's say the average right now is about £15, when last year it was around 13, maybe I would say. And a pint of beer used to be like 6 to 6.50. Now it's around £7, and still increasing. Let's have a look at utilities. Utility bills can also add up when living in London, but again, I think considering the cost of living in London, utilities are quite cheap. The average cost of electricity, gas, and water for a one-bedroom flat used to be, I think, around maybe 80 to £100 per month. I would say right now is, I'm not sure because it depends on your provider as well and how much obviously you consume, but maybe it's not 100, it might be like 140. Depends. The thing I'm gonna say is that the worst monthly expense, like the biggest monthly expense in terms of bills, is the council tax. Council tax is to cry for, literally. Like, and I think on average, from what I've seen from my experience living here and my friends' experience living here, for an average one-bedroom flat in between like zones, maybe like 1 and 2, people pay something right now, because these are the increased inflated prices. People pay anything between like 1,800 and 2,000, or maybe even more a year, right? A year. So you divide that by 12 months and there you have it. So that means that you pay at least £130 per month in council tax, which is a lot of money again. That's the worst thing. The internet can be like around £45. You can find very, very cheap phone plans. Like I'm with GiveCaf and I pay like £8 to £10 a month, which is super cheap, like super cheap. Water is very cheap, the water bill. Electricity and gas, you have to be careful with this because we saw a massive inflation in prices since last year. The prices went up at least twice, at least for us, but also depends on your plan and the agreement you have with your provider. But if you imagine that up until 2022, the most money I ever paid for both electricity and gas, in a month, electricity and gas in a month, it was during one winter, and it was about like £90, but that was when we had the radiator on every day because it was super cold. So that was the worst. The average I used to pay monthly for electricity and gas combined was about £50 to £60 a month. And now this has doubled. at least in my experience. Let me know what's your experience. Last but not least, I'm going to talk a bit about entertainment. I talked to you about going out, food prices out and beer prices out, but now in general, there is a cost to the going out for entertainment in London. It's got a wealth of options: museums, galleries, theaters, nightlife, musicals, bars, pubs, everything. But all of these options can come at a cost. Everything is more expensive in London rather than going outside London in the rest of the UK. A movie ticket is about like 11 to 12 pounds. You can find cheaper ones depending on the cinema, the area, the day of the week, but you can find cinema tickets with even 8 pounds, which I think is super cool. And 12 pounds even for cinema on a weekend is not that bad compared to other European cities. Most of the museums are for free. At least the bigger ones. So films and museums are fine, and there are so many areas you can just go and visit and walk around the parks and everything. So many free activities you can do in London. But if you decide to go to theaters and performances and musicals, this is the most expensive thing. Because people used to be able to find like at least cheaper last minute tickets for theaters and musicals and stuff like that. Now I cannot find anything less than £50, and that's like at the worst seat one can get in a theater or a musical. And tickets can go up to, I don't know, like 100, 150 or something crazy. So yeah, make sure you book well in advance and keep an eye on the prices. In conclusion, living in London in 2023 can be an expensive venture. The biggest expenses and what makes this city super expensive is accommodation, transportation. I think these are the two biggest expenses, because utilities and supermarket is not that bad. Obviously, this is going up, but still, it's not that bad. But if you end up paying more than 50% of your salary for accommodation and transportation, then you don't end up with enough money to actually live decently and do all the things you want to do, and maybe like save some as well. But yeah, it is challenging to live in the city. It is one of the most expensive cities in the world. I don't think that London is for everyone and anyone, unfortunately. But depends how many compromises you make and how badly you want to live here. I'm sure anyone can make it, especially if they know how to budget. But yeah, I think it is still possible to enjoy all that London has to offer to you. So this was all for today. Let me know how you found all this information, how crazy it all sounds to you or not. Thank you so much for listening today, and I'm gonna see you on the next one. Bye.